Got it.
All right. All right. All right. Good evening. Good evening. So tonight's discussion will be about setting intentions in 2025 and how embracing the creative arts supports one's mental well being. And we are specifically going to be talking about writing. Yes, we have had this conversation before about the importance of journaling, and we have talked about mantras and we've talked about the importance of coloring. So, yes, we have had some of these conversations, but we have not had a creative artist with us. We have not had someone who really has used creative arts as a way to kind of center themselves and support their mental well being. So, we will have that opportunity to talk with my sister June Smith today. I'm happy to have her. Before I actually get fully started, let me at least introduce myself. I'm Dr. Davia. Welcome to Not All the Things. This is a space for mature women of color who really need time to just take a break and focus in on work life balance, wellness, and wine. And if you are new here, please feel free to hit the like and the subscribe. If this is something that you think other sisters might be interested in, please share. Subscribing doesn't cost anything, it is just an opportunity to let the algorithm know to other people who might be like yourself, might be interested in this content. So I definitely would love for you to do that. I'm striving to get to 100 subscribers, hopefully by the end of December. So I think after this conversation, I'll be there. I'll be at least on my way either way. So I want you to meet Sister June Smith, and I want her to just introduce herself and talk a little bit about um, how is art essential to you in your everyday life.
Oh God.
Is that too big to start with? How about we just start with how are you? Who are you? What's going on?
Hello, how are you? Thank you for having me. Thank you. This is so cool. This is so interesting. This is so needed. And so I'm always excited to have somebody uh who want to have a conversation about the very thing that I feel like I live by every day of my life in some way, shape, or
Mm,
form. Probably
mm,
not always in the same way, but I do something creative probably every day in some way, shape, or form. So thank you for embracing that and acknowledging that. I am June Smith, and I am a writer, an editor by trade. Have been writing all my life, ever since I was a kid, and
mm,
grew up. My family are all either entrepreneurs or artists in some way, shape, or form. So I grew up in the arts. So it's kind of like oxygen for me, and I say that all the time because I truly do believe art is oxygen. So it's something that I think I just need in order for me to keep myself sane and balanced, and in peace. And
mm-hmm,
so yeah, that's kind of what I do. And so I am a creative, and
mm-hmm.
as much as I am an entrepreneur, I also recognize the importance of creativity, and the
Yeah,
place that the space that it needs to be in my life.
I love that. I love
So
that.
thank you for having me.
And thank you for saying yes, for sure. I appreciate that. And I have to give a little shout out to Fly Like Me PhD. So happy to have you in this space. I am, this is my first actual live. I've done a number of shows, but I always tape them and upload them, and then I'm in the comments. So I'm excited to like venture into this next layer of space. So I
Oh, cool.
appreciate you. Yes,
Oh,
and
geez.
yes, no
I'm the
pressure.
guinea pig.
No pressure, no pressure. And then I have to give a little special love to my daughter Marley, who's always in the back. Her and my son are always supporting me. So she's like, "Yay, here you are, you made it." Yes. So yes, thank you,
Nice,
Marley,
nice. I love
for
it.
the big shout out. Yes, I appreciate that.
Cool.
I appreciate that. So,
Yeah.
um, I loved this anthology, and I just want to share with folks. I'm going to drop in the chat chosen for a purpose, and you see I have all my little tags cuz that's the educator
Uh-oh.
nerd, the educator nerd
Uh-oh.
in me. Well, I had to at least go in a little bit because I was hoping that you would share. There was so much in here that I feel like we've talked about, but I think could be really useful and helpful, for sure. So, you talk a little bit about your section of the book is around delicacy of society, and I just
Hmm.
wanted you to talk more about what does that mean? What's the context around that title, and what does that mean, delicacy of society? I was like, "Ooh, okay."
So I think creative people, I think people who are very creative are delicacies. They are,
Mm,
we are people who, in the concept or in the construct of creating really wonderful things, either
mm,
books, music, art, painting, sculptures, whatever. Um, we create really beautiful things, but we're also very fragile.
mm,
We're fragile about our art. We're fragile about our approach to it. We're
mm.
fragile about the comments or the criticisms that may come with it.
Right.
But we actually are the people who provoke and invoke and evoke uh, emotions and thought, and we are delicate, right? It's like champagne, right?
Mm,
Everybody doesn't like it, but it's a delicacy, right? It's like
yes.
caviar. You may not necessarily like it, but it's a delicacy. It's not something that you have all the time, but it's something that you hold in high regard if you really do
Mm-hmm.
like it. You
Mm-hmm.
respect it and you revere it
I
and you
love
herald it.
that. I
And
love that.
so when I think about creative people, I think about the fact that we are delicacies of society. We touch every single, emotion,
Mm-hmm.
in every aspect of our living, our daily life. And sometimes people are not necessarily always kind, right? Sometimes
Yes.
people judge. Sometimes people go, oh, you're not, what do you, the biggest thing is, are you going to college? Oh, yeah, you're going to college. What are you going to college for? Well, if you say you are going to college to be a writer, if you're going to college to be something in the liberal arts, they're like, oh, girl, you ain't not going to make no money from that. Why you know what I mean? Real
Yes.
talk. And so
Real
for
talk.
me, that always was always something that tripped me out
Mm-hmm.
because I realized that, coming from a Caribbean family, my mom, the thing that I think I really always respected and loved about my mother, beyond the fact that she was my mother and she was such a phenomenal, excuse the expression, badass in her own way,
There it is.
she allowed me to be me. She allowed me to be creative. She allowed me to be independent in that. And so as a child, I didn't really play with toys. I didn't
Hmm.
really like toys. I didn't like dolls. I like
Right.
to write. I like to
Right.
draw. I like to make character sketches, cartoon characters, and write stories with them. I've done that ever since I was a kid. So when I got older, I knew that the thing that I wanted to do was to be a journalist. I wanted to be a writer. I always wanted to be a writer. It was nothing else I wanted to do. And so, when I think about it, I was having a conversation with somebody the other day and I said to them, the one thing that's been consistent with me in all my life is the fact that I've always been a writer. I've always written, and
That's
writing has
wonderful.
always made me money, right?
That's
It has
wonderful.
always been the thing that has allowed me to make a living.
Right.
And so, when people say, "Oh, she's just in the art. She ain't gonna make no money." Say that to Beyonce. Say that to, some of these other folks that you guys cherish and revere,
Right.
because they're
Right.
artists. We're all artists. And so I feel like there was a disrespect sometimes that comes with that. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't like that. Because when you think about art is oxygen to me, right? It is in everything that we do. It's art is in this conversation in terms of how we're having a discussion.
Right.
It is the way somebody has created a computer. It is the words that somebody has written to actually program it so that somebody could follow it and
Right.
create the programming behind this structure. It's somebody who's written a book. It's somebody who dances. It's somebody who sings. It's in everything that we do. It is oxygen. And so when
Yes.
you think about art, the earth without art is right? And I say that because EARTH. You take out
Yes.
the ART, it's just EH. It's just eh.
It's
It's
just
beige. It's It's boring.
It's boring. I get it. And I appreciate that so much because when we had talked before, you had shared with me, the arts, especially for people who feel like they're not creative or they're like, I can't really do art. You had said art is in everything, and art is the way in which you um how did you put it? Art is in the way that you balance your checkbook if that's your thing. And I was like, wow.
Absolutely.
I was like, I never
Absolutely.
thought about it. Art's in the way
Yeah.
that if you're organized, it's the way you organize your life. It's the way you create your spreadsheets. It's the way art doesn't have to be art for art making's sake.
Right.
Art is the oxygen. And that is so true. Art
Yeah.
is oxygen. I love that.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
love that.
think about it, right? And when people say to me, "Oh, I'm not creative," but you are creative, right?
Right.
There's something very interesting about loving numbers.
Yeah.
There's something very interesting about designing a spreadsheet, right? There's the art of creating that, the art of wanting to understand formulas, Pythagorean theory and all that other stuff,
Right.
E equals
Right.
MC squared, you know, people go, oh, I'm a mathematician, but that's still art.
That's
There's a
still art.
science to that. There's a
That's still
science to
art.
that I don't think people take seriously.
Yeah.
And so if if we looked at it with a different lens and with a different perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I think we'll have a different outlook and respect for what we consider art. Because art to me is not just painting, it's
Right.
not just sculpture, right?
Right.
It's refurbishing, it's refreshing, it's recalibrating,
Yes.
it's regenerating.
Yes.
It's in our everyday. Think about our bodies, even. Think about our minds.
Right. Right.
What's
Absolutely.
happening when we're not sleeping? What kind of thoughts are we having?
Absolutely.
And how does that
Absolutely.
affect our body and the makeup of our body? And I just feel like sometimes we just kind of don't take things as seriously as we need to.
Mm-hmm.
um, but life is is continuing to move forward, whether you do or you don't. And
Absolutely.
whether you decide to create or you don't, right?
Yes.
There's a
Yes.
science to you staying balanced, right?
And
You
that
don't
and
eat
that
certain
itself.
things. Yeah, your body is an art. Your body is a masterpiece.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You are so fortunate that your mother let you pursue being a writer at a young age. Many of us might have been exposed to lots of sports, and I was a dancer, and my whole life I thought I was going to be a dancer until I got to 17, 18, and my grandmother was like, okay, so what you going to do in college? And I was like, well,
Right.
I thought I was going to dance, but clearly in her
That didn't
mind,
happen, girl.
that ain't gonna happen.
No.
Why? Because that's not how you're gonna make your money. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
she loved the arts and she allowed me to engage, in it, but she was not able to see that it could be a profession that I could live off of. It was teacher. Thank God I'm a teacher, although I pushed back against that. Um, it was doctor, which I'm not sure she really thought doctor. She said nurse, and secretary. That's what she knew. She was like, you could do something in business. You could be a doctor or a nurse, or you could be a teacher. That's a good job, and you should definitely engage in that. So, um,
That's
I
real.
think you're lucky to have had someone who allowed you to pursue that and to follow that dream for sure.
Yeah. I mean, so my mom went up to the eighth grade.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And did not have a formal education. And we were very poor. And one of the things that I was adamant about was the fact that I was going to make sure that I had, uh, in order for me to live the life that I wanted to live, I was going to make sure that I had a good education. Right. So that
Yes.
meant I was going to go to college.
Yes.
And my mom said to me one day, listen, I know you talking about wanting to go to college, but I don't really know how you're going to do that. I don't have any money for you to go. Right. But I always was a good student. And so I realized that, I could do both. I could pursue ways in which I wanted to make a living
Right.
in the field of writing or journalism, because I saw myself going to Beirut and covering stories like,
Mm-hmm.
um, what is her, Martha Raddatz,
Yes,
and all
yes.
these folks, right, going out there and being on the front line. And that wasn't quite the way it was going to go down, but in my mind, that's
But in
kind
your
of what I
mind,
thought. So,
right.
I was on the school newspaper, and I, wrote newsletters, and I went to college, and I was on the college, the radio station, and I was on the newspaper at college, and I really wanted to soak up and understand the world of media.
Yes.
So when I went to college, I decided I wasn't just going to study journalism. I was going to study journalism and mass
And
media. So that was a double
mm-hmm.
major with a minor. What I
What were you
thinking? I had
thinking?
no clue, because I was on a
What were
I was
you
on overload
thinking?
every semester, right? But it served me well because I was able to work in radio for a little bit, work
Right,
in magazines, work in publishing. And
right.
so it allowed me to be able to really see where I really felt I wanted to land. And the
Mm-hmm.
thing that I think I really try to tell people to this day is, if you don't have really good writing skills, writing takes you into any industry.
Yes,
Right, having being a good writer and being a good communicator, it takes you into
yes.
any industry you so desire. And
Absolutely.
so I feel like that's been the reason why I've been able to jump and do a bunch of different things, because my writing skills have allowed me to do that.
Yeah,
So for me, that was like, that's the North Star for me,
yes,
you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, one, I got to say thank you, Tracy, for being here. I really appreciate you being
Hi,
here.
Tracy. I have no idea who
Yes.
she is, but hi.
Yes, she's a good friend.
Thanks for joining in.
Yes, definitely. And then I want to lift this question from Phi Like Me PhD. She says, "How do we respond to loved ones that don't think art is valuable because it does not make as much money as the hard sciences might make? What might we say? What would
Well,
you
I mean,
suggest?"
it's kind of part of what we've been talking about, right? I feel like one of the things that people need to do is change their perspective on how they see the writing and the arts, period.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I say that because think about it. People are sitting up in here. We lately we have been consumed. Well, I'm a media junkie, so obviously I'm going to
Yes.
say
So
that, right?
so yes. So you are definitely
Disclaimer.
in it.
But think about it. I mean, there's no young person walking around here that can't tell you what's going on with Diddy.
Okay.
There's no young person walking around here that can't tell you the name of Beyonce's kids. There's no young person out here who can't talk to you about, what is happening in the world of Drake and Kendrick Lamar and all these other folks, right?
Right.
And I say that because what's happening is the fact that these people are artists, and the people who are reporting the news are media people, and they too are artists,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so if you're telling me that the arts is not important, then why are we tuned in so much into the lives of these people who don't we know, who in some case we don't even know,
Right.
right? But
Right.
for some reason we find an interest, or we're intrigued by that. Why are we intrigued by that? Because it's how they actually show up, whether we like them or don't like them, and it's how their lives are reported. It's how they come into our world every single day or not,
Right.
right? It's how we revere them or herald them in terms of their celebrity life, right? And so I really want people to switch the perspective and how we're seeing that. And I also think that, when we're thinking about making money,
Right.
yes, it's important to make money. It's important because it's a tool for us to live. But I also want folks to begin to think about ways in which you can strategize so that you can take your writing skills and do something with it, right?
Right.
So maybe, or you can take dance. So, for example, both of my daughters grew up in the arts, obviously, right? Their dad,
Yes.
their dad is it was an artist. He was a musician in the record industry. And so the point I'm making about that is that one daughter decided, you know what? I don't necessarily want to dance anymore. I want to go
Mm-hmm.
into fashion. So she
Right.
went into fashion.
Right.
Okay, does very well. She works wardrobe for TV film commercials, right?
Nice.
My other daughter says, you know what, I want to be a dancer. She went to school and she studied dance, and she has performed with a bunch of different people that you guys
Right.
may have heard of, right? And then decided, I don't want to do dance anyway in the same way. I want to do fitness. So now she does
Right.
Pilates and strengthening and all that stuff. So
Right.
what I think I want people to know is whatever artistry you find is your ministry, take that and be able to find ways in which you can create something else to allow you to do the things that you
Yes.
want to do, because it's
Yes.
really about fulfilling your purpose. It's,
Yes.
and once you know that you're fulfilling your purpose, and once you know that that is your ministry, that's your passion, the money will follow easily,
That's the
because
best
that
way
will
of putting it.
resonate with the people who are watching you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How many
That.
people do you know that I have friends who are attorneys now and freaking hate it? They make a lot of money, but they're miserable, and they drink all the time because they're
Right. Right.
miserable,
Right.
right?
Right.
Or I have a friend who was
Absolutely.
in computers and hated it and changed into engineering and hated that, and now they're in education. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't. What do you want to do? What
What
do
do
you
you
know?
want?
Where are your gifts
Right.
and
Right.
talents?
Yeah, that is so true, and I appreciate you really leaning into the fact that it really isn't about money. It the money will come if you live in your passion, right? No
Absolutely,
matter what it is, the money will follow if you're living
absolutely.
your truth, you're living in your passion. And I do think, I do hope that there's more flexibility for young folks now to be able to follow all kinds of directions to make their living and to explore who they are and to explore what they want to do. And so
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Tracy, I'm so glad that this is a timely topic for you. I'm sure that we're all kind of thinking about what this new iteration of ourselves are going to be in this 2025, because
Yeah.
I am absolutely
Yeah.
projecting forward about my retirement. My every being is about when I get to retire, when I get to transition and do whatever the next thing is for
When
myself.
you
And
want
I
to grow
feel
up, what you want to do
when I
when you grow
when I
up.
grow up, some other new things I might want to do, like learning
Absolutely.
this YouTube and being in these YouTube streets, as they say, for sure,
Yeah. I
for
mean,
sure.
it's really funny to me too, because as you're saying that, I'm thinking about the fact that, there are folks who, young people, and I talk about young people a lot only because I am fascinated by how they think. And I'm fascinated by the tools that they now have to allow them to draw these
Yes.
wider paths, right? And
Yes.
so, I look at reels, and I was watching these little kids today talk. This one kid was talking to her dad. She had to have been about maybe 6, and she was talking to her dad, and she was she was basically reprimanding her dad because her dad was mean to her sister.
Uh-oh.
And she said to her dad, she was like, I don't like the way you speak to Hope. That's her sister's name.
Right, right.
I don't like the way you speak to Hope. I don't think you're being very nice when you speak to Hope. and
Wow.
and she said to him, and this was deep to me, she said, I think God made you have me and Isaac so that you could learn how to speak to Hope.
No, she
Blew
didn't.
me away. That kid could have been no more than 6 or 7. But I say that because I shared with you earlier that one of the things that I like to do is I work with young kids.
Mm-hmm.
They're like 10 years old.
Right,
And
right,
so I'm teaching them entrepreneurship, so, right, in Jersey
right.
City. Let me tell you something. These little kids are smart and bright
All the time.
and hopeful and energetic. And to me, that's where you begin to plant those seeds, right?
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of times when we think about what career is acceptable and what career is not acceptable, it's
Mm.
because we plant thoughts and seeds in people's
Yes,
minds, in these
yes.
kids' minds, and we pull them away, and they do things because they want to make sure that mom and dad approves and that they're validated, but they're
Right,
not really. That's not really what they want to do.
right,
And so
right.
I say expose them to as many things as you possibly can. And then
Yes.
help guide them into, thinking and strategizing what can be, how can they do the things that they really want to do in a way that makes sense.
Sure, sure. So let me ask you this.
Hmm.
I titled this episode Setting Intentions in 2025, Creative Art and Mental Health. And as I was going through the anthology, there was something that struck me. And there's a sentence that you talk about dealing with some real issues and dealing with trauma. And I was wondering how that trauma might help you lead might lead you to your superpower. That's how I interpreted that. That that let me see if I can find it.
What did it say? Yeah,
It says,
that's a loaded question.
oh, indeed. Indeed. It says, oh, this is underneath the delicate, they are delicate pearls of wisdom, an exquisite talent who are at times fragile beings who may have encountered trauma or pain, yet have resiliently risen to produce strength, beauty, and perseverance as their superpower. And so I was like,
Mm,
yes. How
got
does
it.
that,
Okay.
how does that come to
Yeah.
be?
So, what I mean by that is that, as I said to you, delicate, something that's a delicacy. It's really a pearl inside. It's something beautiful and magical and fragile, but beautiful, right?
Right.
And it creates something else, or it gives you a certain ambiance or a feeling or a thought that's beautiful that you never
Mm-hmm.
forget. One of the reasons why I even started working around the space of mental health and art is because, and I'm very transparent about this, I talk about my own episodes of having depression or
Mm-hmm.
experiencing depression when I was in my 20s and did not
Mm-hmm.
really know what it was, right?
Yes.
I had seen a lot of trauma as a kid,
Right.
but didn't really resonate that that could even be an issue as to why I was probably having a depressive episode. I just
Absolutely.
knew that there was some days I felt blue. I couldn't really tell you what exactly that looked like, or I to this day I still can't fully ever articulate what it is, but I am such a mental person. And
Mm-hmm.
when I say a mental person, I mean I am very analytical in how I think
Right.
and how I create things, right? So I'm innovative in that way because I am not somebody that always moves by emotion. I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot. I think ahead 2, 3 steps of everybody
Right.
else and so when I realized that it was depression, I was well in my 30s,
Right. Right.
right? Um, but the thing that I really did not ever want to do is I did not really want to take medication. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
understand, is there a way that I could beat this thing? Is there a
Right.
way that I could not feel blue and not be popping a pill?
Right. Right. Right.
And so what I realized for me, I had to begin to jot down the things that were making me feel blue or that would be a trigger. So,
Right.
for example, because I am so driven in working, I will work to be almost like to the point where I'm a workaholic, quite
Right.
frankly.
Yeah, I
And
know some people like that.
some people like
I
that, right?
do. I do.
So becoming a workaholic for me means that I don't really sleep very well, means that I drink
Mm-hmm.
coffee all the time, means that
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this dungeon of working,
Right.
right? That then throws off your equilibrium, throws off your balance, throws off
Right.
your electrolytes,
Right.
totally messes with you with your hormones, right? And so I had to learn that I needed to sleep, I needed to eat right,
Right.
I needed to not work so much. I needed to
Right.
strike a better balance. I needed to
Yes.
exercise,
Yeah.
right? And I needed to find a way to calm my mind because I was
Yes.
always thinking.
Right.
What's the next story? What's the
What's the
next,
next thing? What's the
manuscript?
next
What's the
thing?
next? And so learning to come up with a formula that worked for me is what prohibited me from actually having depressive episodes.
Sure.
I
Sure.
know the coping strategies. And so that's the thing that I think people need to understand. There are coping strategies to deal with that. Now, luckily for me, depression was my only thing.
Right.
However, I have friends who are creative folks who are painters who suffer with bipolar,
Right.
who are
Right.
schizophrenic, who deal with anxiety,
Right.
right, and schizophrenia. and
Right.
and so one of the things I really wanted to understand was I wanted to understand, as you're in that creative process, what are you thinking, what's
What are you
happening to
thinking?
you? Because
Yeah.
no one really talks about that. Nobody
Sure.
talks about what
Sure.
is really happening to you as you are creating, right?
Mm-hmm.
The challenges.
Mm-hmm.
People talk about the end product of the painting, but they don't talk about what's going on with you as you're creating that painting.
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And so that's the reason why sometimes you have people who suffer with bipolar. That's why they don't take their medication, because
Right.
when they're creating something, they're on such a high,
They're not
they
feeling.
can't allow
Right.
anything to bring them down, because
Right.
once they
Right.
come down, they crash,
Right.
right?
Right.
So learning to understand that when you're having trauma, or when you're experiencing trauma or pain in any way, shape, or form, one of the things that I think you really have to do is you have to be able to sit in that, and you have to be able to understand that that's what's cognitively happening to you.
Right.
And what are the things you now need to do, right? So for me, I'm very spiritually grounded. I have a spiritual practice that I don't really depart from too much. That means when I wake up in the morning, I go into my spiritual practice. I don't have conversations with anybody. I don't respond to emails, phone calls,
Right.
any of that until I get that done. And then that kind of grounds me to start my day. If I don't do that sometimes, very rarely, that I may skip that, but at some point in the course of the day, I'm going to stop and do some
Mm-hmm.
meditation, some
Mm-hmm.
prayers, some stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I feel like trying to create that in your mind, or being mindful about that.
Right. Right.
That's the other
Right.
thing, because we're so busy doing stuff, we're not mindful about what's happening to you in the moment. Like, we're having
Yes.
this conversation,
Mm-hmm.
right? It will never happen again. I am very conscious and very mindful of the conversation we're having.
Right.
And I'm very clear about making sure that I understand that this is sacred to me, right? This is a
Yes.
sacred time, because we have other people who are listening, who might be curious, who might be going through some similar things, right? Or might know
Mm-hmm.
somebody that is. This is a sacred time. And so it is not the time for me to be distracted with anything else
Yeah.
but this.
I thank you for that. And there's a strength that you talk about, being able to notice that you are in a depressive state and also stand back, almost interrogate that and say,
Mhm.
I'm behaving in a certain way, I'm being a certain way, and how do I pull myself out of that, and how do I do that? And not a lot of there I think you have to mature or be mature enough to be able to see that for yourself, or be able to be self-reflective, in a way so that you can notice how you are, engaged. And I really do appreciate the idea of being present in the moment. That is something that I've been talking about in past episodes around being meditative, taking a break, slowing down, and all of this. This whole conversation really is around recognizing and being in balance with yourself in a way
Mhm.
that we don't always allow ourselves as women of color, because we are always on the grind, and always thinking about how we're going to take care of this, and so many other people are pulling on us and need us. And so I really, I honor the fact that you're able to, speak that out loud, and to say to people, listen, stand back before you take whatever you have to take, and
Yeah.
look at yourself in a cognitive way. Why are you
Yeah.
engaged in this way? Because sometimes it's just easy for them to, you go to the doctor, they say you're depressed, you take the pill, you go to your counseling, and you're on this like cycle. And having the art be something that's very central is really interesting. On a personal note, have a sister who's very art driven and is very creative, and she also is struggling with bipolar. And I think when she's doing her art and when she's engaged in that way, she's not thinking about how she shows up in her other space. And so it's fascinating to hear you say that,
Mhm.
because I've never thought about it in that way. I'm always like, she's not taking her meds, she's not taking care of herself. What are we gonna do? And so,
Yeah.
you've given me another way to kind of look at that. Um,
Yeah. But
yeah.
thank you for sharing that. But the thing that I want you to also, there's a couple of things that you mentioned that I want you to also think about, is the fact that everybody doesn't always feel comfortable going for counseling, right? And
I know.
I want
I
folks to
know.
know that, if you want to go for counseling, you should go for counseling, because I think it has saved my life. It really
Mhm.
has.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't think there's anything wrong with counseling, but I know some people, frown upon that, especially our men. We don't, we don't feel like we need that. Oh, that's not for me. That's not. You can
Mhm.
have a
Right.
bunch of stuff going on, but you don't think it's for you.
But
I'm
you don't
like,
think it's
okay,
for you. But okay. Right. Something's going
but
on. You need something.
Absolutely.
Maybe
And
just
so the
Jesus.
way in how you come home, the way in which you come home to me, the way in which we come together
Right.
matters,
Right.
right? It matters when you have been treated poorly in the course of a day, or it matters when you have had something really, really traumatic happen to you and you want to be able to talk about it. But, then you feel like you're going to be judged, or then you feel like nobody's going to understand. Like at some point, somebody has to unpack that somewhere, you
Right.
know?
Right. So where are you going to unpack it? If you don't go anywhere, then I guess that's a conversation we're
Right,
going to have, or we're not going to have.
right. Now
Right.
you're looking at a bottle to drink, or now you're looking to smoke something. Now you're looking to drink some lean. You're
Right. Right.
looking
You're
to do
doing
some
something.
stuff. And so I feel like I really want people to understand, like, it's okay. And I say this to you all the time. If this isn't right,
Mm.
how is the rest of your body okay?
Mm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
like that for me doesn't make sense to me,
Right.
right?
Right.
The other thing, as we talk about the bipolar piece of that, is that even though when someone is creating in the space who might be having a challenge with bipolar, um,
Yeah.
they should be able to at least still take their meds to know that they need to find that balance, right? So that when
Yes.
they are creating, they're not erratic.
Right.
Because it's when you're not taking your medication and you become erratic, you might be doing some really great things, but when you crash, you're crashing for a long period of time if you're not taking your
Yes.
meds. So
Absolutely.
that's the thing that I feel like people, they'll say, "Oh, I can't take my meds because it just doesn't give me the same kind of, energy to
Right. To
produce."
do right. To do what I need to
Right.
do.
But
Yes.
when you
Yes.
don't take it, when you crash, you are crashing, and sometimes, and the more you evade taking your meds,
The harder.
the episodes get worse
Yes.
every time you have an
Absolutely.
episode. So
Absolutely.
that's what I want people to understand. If you need to take your medication, take your medication.
Yes, yes. So, Sabbatical Life with Dr. Krista, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. Sabbatical Life is another creator, and she is also on Wednesdays. She's at 6 p.m. So, um, you could definitely drop your info in here, Sabbatical Life. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate that. And Fly Like Me PhD said therapy has changed her life. And
Oh
I
yeah. Oh yeah.
totally, appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. And it's okay
Um,
to say you're not okay.
it's okay to say
People
it.
go
It's
to the
okay to say it.
gynecologist, they go to the dentist.
They go to all
Why don't you
them.
go for therapy?
Right,
I don't get it.
right.
And this is
Absolutely.
the psych this is the computer of your
Then,
body.
right,
This is
right.
off. How do you think everything else is in alignment? I don't get that either.
Absolutely. June, can you talk a little bit about your June in art? Is that what it's called? The June in
Art and
art?
June.
Art in June. Sorry, I switched it. The Art in June work and what that's about. Can you talk a little bit about that?
So Art in June is delicacies of society, is just exactly that. I highlight, I interview artists all across all genres, and I
Nice.
talk to them about their uh, challenges in their creative process. So I don't
Mm,
really care so much about what's happening to them. I don't care so much about the end product. I mean, I do, but I don't.
I know what you mean.
I
I get
care
that
about what's happening to you as you're creating.
as you're creating.
Because that's the impetus in terms of what you create,
Mm,
and how long it takes you to create or not, right? And nobody talks about that. Nobody talks
right,
about the struggle that they have. I
right,
care
right.
about that
That's
because
interesting.
that's what makes you continue to do the work that you do. That's what allows you to have the balance, or that's what allows you to persevere when you feel like you want to give up. That's the thing that you sometimes need to do to in order for you to get better, to get through and to be on the other side, right?
Right, right.
What people don't always understand is that sometimes when people are creating stuff, that's the time that they're in the most trauma. That's the time that
Mm,
they're really,
mm,
some artists particularly, that's when they've come closest to taking their own lives,
mm.
you know.
Wow.
And so I don't think people understand that. That's important. That's why it's so
Wow.
important to me. It's like it's like I don't know if I was sharing this with you, but I was telling you that James Baldwin had attempted to take his life 4 times.
Mm,
James Baldwin was so ahead of his time that
Right.
his work still stands today and people are still talking about who he is, right?
Right.
But he attempted to take his life 4 times, right?
Right.
And when you talk about Van Gogh and you talk about the fact that Van Gogh story night Starry Nights
Right.
is probably one of the, highest paying pieces of art that exists today. He was drawing it from his room in the asylum in which he
Right.
stayed and he lived in, from the view from the window,
Right.
because
Right.
he was schizophrenic,
Right.
you
Right.
know? And so I really want people to understand that, like, that's a critical time. And so Art in June happened because I got really ill. I almost died.
Mm.
And I was in the hospital. And as crazy as this may sound, I was in the hospital in isolation, extremely sick, didn't think I was
Mm.
going to make it. New Year's Eve last year.
Mm.
Okay. Didn't think I
Wow.
was going to make it. I had the flu, ended up becoming pneumonia, and it
Right.
almost took me out of here. And all I could think about as I was laying in my hospital bed was, there's no art on the walls.
Gosh, I
There
can't
was like one painting in there, and I kept going, where's the art?
with
The
the
art should be
art.
palliative. This should help me
Right.
feel better.
Right.
Where's the
It should.
art?
Right. Right. It's true.
And
It's true.
so I came out of there and I started really saying to myself, I was in a crossroads. I had a lot of different things happening, but I was in a
Sure.
crossroads and
Sure.
I was like, I need to do something new in my life. I don't know what it
Mm.
is, but I was
Mm.
really, really sick. And
Wow.
so I started just kind of thinking. And one day I woke up and it was like almost like very clear. It was like God just said, this is what you need to
This is what
do.
you're gonna do.
I started doing it. And the next thing I knew, Bergen Newbridge Medical Center heard that I
Hmm.
was doing this and they were like, we love what you're doing. Can you partner with us?
Wonderful.
Right?
Wonderful. Right.
Didn't know. Now I'm not a therapist.
Right.
I'm a creative, right? But they were like, "Oh my god!" I sent them a concept paper. They loved it, and the rest was
And the
history,
rest is
right?
history. I
And
appreciate
so
that.
what I do
Yeah.
is I interview all different artists, and so I'm getting ready to actually begin to do the fall winter series. I
Series.
just interviewed one person about. She's a professor, but she teaches writing. So
Mm-hmm.
hers is the art of teaching, right? And
Nice.
what that looks like. I'm going to do the art of hearing,
Right.
because I think that people need to understand and see art in some very abstract ways, in
Mm-hmm.
addition to the regular ways that you see it. But it's just a little mini series that I'm creating around that. But my website is artinjune.com, and you'll get a chance. And because I'm an art collector, you'll see that there's some pieces of art. I haven't added everything in there yet, but there's some art in there that I sell. There's the
Yes.
reels are in there. And it just really allows people to kind of think about, how you show up and how you're showing up in terms of your everyday life,
Love it.
in terms of creating. When I'm feeling low, I create things. I'm
Nice.
always painting something. So like I
Nice.
was I was saying, I created this,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Oh, that's so
Because one day
interesting.
I was feeling I was feeling very angry and very
Mm.
anxious.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I created this. And you know what this is? This is a wine bottle that I refurbished.
Yes.
So
Yes. I
yeah.
appreciate that. Yes. So I'm going to ask you, what do you think the top three, it could be as many as you want, but I'm going to go with three. The
Mhm.
top three ways that creative art can aid in positive mental health. And I'm sure there are many more ways, but and so one of the things, and I'll just give you the one that I put on there that I was thinking
Okay.
about.
Hmm.
I was thinking that the arts in general just encourages self-expression, and lots of times you don't always get to have a moment to have self-expression. You're always kind of like working within whatever the boxes are that people put you in, right? And so if nothing else, when women and anybody, not just women, but when folks begin to have an opportunity to engage in self-expression, then they have this opportunity to dream, that they have this opportunity to kind of feel like they can set those intentions and that they can kind of push past. So for me, it really was like, oh, okay. I think encouraging self expression is a wonderful way to use the arts to help you support your mental health and your wellness. So that's what I was thinking about. I don't know if you have some other ones.
I think you're right on point with that.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
I'm going to piggyback on that and say social connection.
Ah,
Social
nice.
connection. This is social
That's a good
connection that
one.
we're
This is
having.
social connection. Yes. I
Right. So
love
the
that.
ability to actually talk about that, the ability to brainstorm, the ability to talk about, your challenges of where you find yourself,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? It fosters an ability for you to have interaction and to, you know, not have people deal, those people who might be struggling with loneliness or depression or isolation, feeling isolated. That's a way in which you can combat that, right? And so I feel like that's really important. And also, sometimes there are people who are lonely and who are dealing with
Yes.
that and who don't want to say that they're dealing with that. They're embarrassed
Yes.
because they think they're going to be judged,
Yes. Absolutely.
right? I was
Absolutely.
looking at something the other day where somebody actually had an ad in it was an app, and they were actually looking for somebody just to kind of, they didn't want a relationship. It was crazy, but this
They
lets
needed
you
to
know how
have
people
somebody to
this
talk
lets you know how
to.
people they were looking for
They were
somebody to
looking
just
for a friend.
go to exactly. They just
Yes.
looking for somebody to just go out with. They didn't want anything, um but they just wanted to be able to find a friend. And I just
Yeah.
thought that was, wow, that was interesting. That's like old fashioned pen pal stuff, right? Okay.
Listen. Listen.
No
I have
judgment, just
no
saying, but you
judgment. No
never know.
judgment. Um,
Yeah.
I had another one that I was thinking about. I was thinking that it can help you boost your own self-esteem and your
Hmm.
confidence, right? So
Absolutely.
just by engaging, and even if your art is yours, so whatever it is that you do, like I always talk about my little torn paper collage because I love to do torn paper collage. Um, I like to repurpose birthday cards and Christmas cards because I just feel bad throwing those things out.
I know.
People
Me
spend good
too.
money, and so I want to
Yeah,
use
me
them.
too. Me
And
too. And some
so
of them are really pretty.
yeah, and so being
Yeah.
able to do it and put it together, it's nothing fancy, but it gives me the confidence like, oh, I could
Absolutely.
do this and I might be able to do something else. So
That's
for me,
right.
it's like a self-esteem booster, it's a confidence builder, and it
Yeah,
makes me
yeah.
feel good. I'm happy to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, the other thing that I think, as you were talking about that, I was just thinking about the fact that you need to, as you're talking about social connection too, you also want to make people know that it's a safe space, right?
Yes,
So that
yes.
it's not a space where people are going to feel judged or assume,
Right,
you're going to make assumptions about them, right? So I think
right,
as long as people understand that it's a safe space and it's a space that they can actually be themselves and kind of share some stuff and get some ideas, I think that's cool. I also think that the other thing that art does for folks, it improves your mood, right? It allows you
yes,
to really
yes,
just kind of feel like the anxiety can be diminished,
yes,
right? That you don't have to worry so much about, oh gosh, I got to do this. I got to, you don't have to do that. It reduces your stress level,
right,
right? And
right.
so I don't know how many people, believe in meditation. For me, meditation calms me down. And so there's
Yes,
like a little exercise that I will share with my friends. I also share with my daughters, and I say to them, do 4-7-8. They know exactly what that is. That's
right,
inhaling for 4 on the count of 4, holding it for a count of 7, and then exhaling on a count of 8.
right,
Right.
right.
And if you ever feel anxious, that's one way in which you can begin to reduce your anxiety, but it also reduces your blood pressure.
Oh, okay, great.
Right. Yeah. So like little things like
Little
that,
things like that.
allows you to do that. Like my daughter, when she used to, she was performing on stage, she would sometimes she'd just get nervous, her little
Of
palms would
course.
get sweaty and stuff like that. And, you know, you like, okay, you think about breathing, take just deep breaths. The other thing that people don't understand is that, taking deep breaths every day is very helpful to your heart health,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
So just think the rhythm of breathing.
Yep.
That's art.
That's art. That's art. I want to say thank you, Marissa Price Heels. Thank you for being in the space. She said creativity has been key to healing for her.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely important. So I
Oh
appreciate
yeah.
that. Yes. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is, it's a life. Like I say to people, think about the heart monitor and think about how your heart moves.
Yeah.
There's a rhythm to that, and that's artistry. So I just want people to think about it on a larger scale, think about it with a different set of lens.
Yes, yes. So as we come to a close, is there anything that you would want to, is there anything else you want to share? Anything else that um, folks should think about if they want to reach out to you, if they want to connect with you, if just
Hmm.
just thoughts around this setting the intention and using creative arts and mental wellness.
Well, I think, it's really funny because I was getting ready to actually send a message out on my social media. So my Instagram is Art in June AIJ. If
Okay.
anybody wants to jump on there, I just really started it. So, like you, I'm building and growing too. And I'm probably not as diligent as I probably should be all the time, but it's just because I'm busy. I got a lot of
We got a
things going
lot.
on. I'm a Caribbean. I got 10 jobs.
I got 10
Um,
jobs. I love it.
but no, that's good. And then on Facebook, I don't have TikTok. On Facebook, I'm just Art in June, so you can find me there. And the biggest thing for me, I think, is I want people to take care of themselves. I want people to not feel guilty about taking care of you. And I was having a
Hmm.
conversation with someone today about a relationship that they're in, and I said, one of the things that I really want people to think about is the fact that, when you find somebody, when you're looking for somebody, you know, oh, he loves me, he's great, he's wonderful. And the minute something happens, you're worrying about that person. And I said,
Right, right,
I feel like it's really important for you to understand that something that Eartha Kitt always says, and this is why I totally love Eartha Kitt, right? But she always says, if you really love me, you gotta love me because I love me.
right, right,
You
right.
know,
I love
you
that.
gotta love me because I love me, and I really want people to understand, love you first. And
Yes.
if you hook up with somebody, man or woman or whatever, make sure that they love you because you love you,
Because you
right?
love you. I love
don't
that.
don't don't hook up with them because you want them to love you, because you're not sure if you love you. You
Right,
know what I mean? So I
right.
think for me, self-efficacy is critical,
I love
right?
that.
Making sure that you understand the value of that is critical to me. All the other things matter. Maximizing your potential, making sure that all the gifts and the talents that you have, that you are using them and you're exercising that to the best of your
Right,
ability.
right, right,
And understanding what your purpose is, understanding that your purpose is your purpose. The approach that you take to fulfill it might change, but
right.
your purpose is your purpose, and walk in that
I love it.
unapologetically.
I love it. I love it. I have to just read to you your own words because they stand out for me. This is what and what's so interesting is in my last episode, and I talked about mantras, I ended mine with I am, and you have this wonderful little piece of poetry right before. Yes, I have
Yes.
to do it. It says, I am me. I am the beauty of mountains laden with colorful, vibrant flowers. I am my inner voice, no longer silent. I am the utopic essence of life. I am nature's rain falling on me. I am the fabric of unlimitedness. I am mine to explore. I have become unstoppable. I was like, yes, that is it for
Absolutely.
me. I love
Absolutely.
those
Thank you. Thank you
words.
for that, because I wrote that in 2010,
It
and
is powerful and
it's
resonates for
still,
me
yeah.
today.
And I think I
Today.
feel a different vibe from it when I wrote it then
Mm-hmm.
to how I
Mm-hmm.
see it today.
I
So
love it.
thank you. Thank you for that. That's very humbling for me, and a deep bow to you for actually acknowledging that, because yeah, thanks. I appreciated that.
It is the piece that I'm growing into the most is understanding who I am. And so
Absolutely.
being able to hear you write it in the way that I feel it, I was like, "Oh, that's me. I am that me
There you
also."
go.
So, I appreciate that. So, I have to
So,
cheers to you
thank you.
today, my
Thank
sister.
you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Mhm. And I just have to share one more little tidbit with the folks. I am today having something different. Usually I have me some red wine. You know, I can't let y'all go without having a little wine combo. I have to throw that in. Usually I'm having some red or some white or some bubbles. But today I am having wine by Signature Q, Signature Sips by Q. This sorrel right here will change your
It's
life.
everything.
Okay, it is everything. So it's the holiday season, and if you are looking for something to enjoy, I suggest you reach on out to get some of that sorrel, because when I tell you it's everything, it's everything for sure. So
Oh,
I just had to give,
thank
I had to give
you.
her a big up. I had to give you a big up, and
Great.
I'm
I
just
appreciate it.
so glad that you were able to be here.
Absolutely.
Thanks
Absolutely. I
everyone
love your
for
spirit. I love, from the first time we started talking, I just thought, you were a phenomenal woman in your own right. And
thank you,
listen,
sis.
whatever I can do to help you win, let's make it happen.
Listen, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yes, Tracy, the signature sips by Q, all of that.
Nice.
She is in the room, so there's
Nice.
no wow. It's just this is the last bottle, and you see me nursing it. I bought two, and I'm like,
I'm going to
okay,
make sure that I get some. Thank you
yes,
for
you
that.
have to get some. You have to get some. I appreciate you. Um,
Absolutely.
so, this has been a moment. I am so thankful. Um, I'm
Absolutely.
so glad. This is like the longest I've had, I have to tell you, been on. The conversation was great. And I just hope that people realize that art is within them, and the art can help to heal you. The art can help you just be that like North Star that we don't always see. And it can be whatever your thing is. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Enjoy it. Enjoy
Yes.
it. It's really funny. I just came back from seeing over the weekend I went to the Whitney Museum to
Oh,
see Edges of Ailey, to see Alvin
yes.
Ailey's. And
Yes.
my daughter went to Alvin Ailey, so it's like family. And I came out of there and I had a newfound appreciation for Alvin Ailey. Even though,
Oh,
and Judith Jamison, and it's just a beautiful thing. So if folks who's on this chat have not seen it, go check it out. I think
I agree.
you will really, really appreciate it, and you'll
I
really, really be grateful and proud to be a Black woman.
Yes. And someone who embraces the arts, all of the arts. It is
Absolutely.
fantastic. We went, I
Yes.
think it might have been two weekends ago. It's worth it.
Yeah.
If it travels, if it comes to your area, definitely. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Marissa Price Heals, for that phenomenal woman shout out. I
Thank
am
you.
just, Marissa is a wonderful content creator and really talking about healing from toxic experiences and doing some freelance work. So I would just say check out all of these sisters who were in this space today. Thank you, Sister June. I really appreciate you just
Welcome. Deep
coming
bow to
on.
you. Thank you
Yes,
for doing what you do. Keep doing it.
thank you. I am going to continue to try and figure out what my next growing up moment is going to be. So thanks
That's
so
okay.
much.
We'll come on our podcast. We'll talk about that too.
Yes, let's do that. Let's absolutely do that
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So thank you, everyone. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Please check me out. I'm here on Wednesdays at 8. Next week, I will not be here because it's Christmas and I think we all need a rest moment. So
Happy
I will
holidays. Yeah.
not be there for that. But on December 30th, which is a Monday, I'm going to have an amazing conversation with Dr. Kamani and Dr. Roche, continuing with this setting intentions for 2025, but looking at financial, getting your financial house in order. And I think it's going to be powerful. It's also going to be alive, so I'm going to be working it out because there'll be two other people in the room. But thank you so much, and I'm so glad you were here with me to do
Thank
this.
you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one. Have a good night, and happy holidays too.
Happy
Thank
holidays
you.
to you. Bye bye.
Bye.